Rashid Broadbell got onto the podium, a bronze medal in the men's 110-meter hurdles. Many thought it should have been a silver. Again, we're beaten on the line. Slow start, strong finish. I think that's now the motto within the Team Jamaica camp. Because, boy, it was a rocky go for us, but we are sailing home. Still not how we want, but we're getting there. Welcome to another episode of Paris Today. I'm your host, Trishana McGowan. And back with me, Daniel Blake, sports reporter from the Jamaica Observer.
Bonjour.
The man really did practice his French. And she has rejoined us, Carol Beckford, sports marketer. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we are now picking up the medals. Slow pace. But but we are getting there. Rashid Broadbell got onto the podium, a bronze medal in the men's 110-meter hurdles. Many thought it should have been a silver. Again, we're beaten on the line. Let me start with you, Daniel. You watched the race. Did you initially think like it was a silver while I was there just happy, say, yo, one of our Jamaicans were on the podium?
Yeah, I was proud in the way he ended the race. Obviously, we know that, he's had issues with the start before, how he clears the first three hurdles. But once he got to hurdle 4 and hurdle 5, he just picked up a brand new gear. Yeah. And I think that's pretty impressive because it's similar to the argument that we had about Hansel years ago, like what if he had the start, because he always found his way back. But Broadbell just has this raw pace about him that when he actually clears the hurdles, he looks so smooth. Obviously, Grant Holloway is the best at it in terms of his technical execution, but really proud that Broadbell was able to not allow, anything to be distracting to him. I know last year was a downer for him, though he won Commonwealth the year before. He wanted to prove himself this year, which he said he did at the national trials. So to come here and be a bronze medalist, he should be extremely proud of himself.
I agree with you. I spoke to Rashid several times this season, twice actually. At the Racers Grand Prix, Carol, he suffered injuries. But once he finished that race, he said, Trish, I'm just happy that I'm at the stage where I can compete, go back to training without having major injuries. He's a former student athlete at St. Jago, was a star athlete for them in the hurdles. We saw Roger Stoner transferred from Mercedes to St. Jago, picking up a big gold medal, surprising gold medal yesterday. When we had you last on the show, Independence Day, we spoke about, a lot of changes that's happening within our sport of track and field. Now that you have rejoined us, let me get your view, slow start for us, but here we are.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm not easily disappointed. I've had the pleasure of working with athletes so I get the game and I don't panic as quickly as some of the fans. And it's okay if you panic. But Broadbell in particular, saw the interviews he did with him, saw him in camp when he was in Stuttgart, saw how he really kind of just focused on what he had to do. And with every interview he did, he got more confident. And you could see the joy in how he delivers. And as Daniel said, once he crossed that fourth hurdle, it was like a dance. It was like he was just gliding and he got there. I think at some point he said, boy, am I gonna get in? You could almost see the hesitation.
Still tentative, yeah.
Right, so you could see that. But listen, I'm one medal away from my target. So,
which her target is 7.
Yeah. So we're
getting closer.
Getting closer.
Yeah. Daniel, when you look at having 3 men in the discus finals for us, historic achievement. Jaden Hibbert, who we'll discuss in just a bit, into a final. 3 men getting into the finals in the 110-meter hurdles. We're no stranger to that. But for the first time, we're not Olympic champions, but we're still on the podium after a rocky start for Team Jamaica. What you made of, just overall Hansel Parchment, Orlando Bennett, and again, Rashid getting onto the podium.
For Orlando, I'm a little disappointed for him because he was actually almost side by side with Broadbell, but then he hit, I think it was hurdle 6 and hurdle 7 and just faded out, into 7th. Because I do think that he, Broadbell, Roberts, and Bennett would have had that, very close finish. Hansel, the writing was sort of on the wall when he said that, he wouldn't have mind competing in the repechage round because he really wanted the rhythm. I know that he's had his injury struggles this year. He did extremely well to get to the final because he didn't look that great. And it's just a cycle. 4 years ago you're the Olympic champion. 4 years later you're eighth. But I think you can't take away from his determination, because to make an Olympic final, especially with the year that he's had, that's spectacular.
So we got a medal in the sprint hurdles for the men. The women, though, I don't want to use the word disappointed. I can, right? I am a bit disappointed that Rochelle Clayton did not get onto the podium. But what I've observed, a lot of the athletes who would have picked up personal best performances, whether in the heats or the semifinals, to come back and repeat similar performances and get better, it has been such a struggle. But big up to Rochelle Clayton and Cheyenne Salmon for getting to the final. And it's a world record race. We saw where an upset was in that race with the Dutch Fenkebal losing to Anna Cottrell. No surprise, but again, it is an upset.
I mean, it is a surprise because we expected, let me say, I expected Femke to really challenge.
Not speak for the people.
But I think even she said it after the race. Her execution was a little off. I don't know if it's because of fatigue or because she knew that she has been the number 2 behind Sydney over the years. But give a lot of credit to Anna Cockrell as well, because she really she didn't bow to the pressure. I know that when Sydney crossed the line, there was a significant gap.
She was a pacemaker, everyone.
But at the same time, Anna finished very well, and sort of disappointed for Rochelle and Cheyenne, more so Rochelle, because we thought that bronze medal was certainly hers. But to have 2 women in the 4 hurdles final is a great achievement.
Yeah, it's a great achievement, and I don't want for a second for the women to feel as if they will feel disappointed, and you're not more disappointed than they are. I knew Rochelle wanted that Olympic medal because she's a 2-time world championship bronze medalist. But just your perspective though, not getting a medal, but would have picked up a personal best in a tough event.
No, and in a world record event, I mean, Sydney was like a beast. As a matter of fact, she could almost contest, if not for the Pakistani who threw the javelin to beat the grenade.
Nadeem.
Right. Pakistan and India at loggerheads, evening track and field. I think Sydney could contest for the athlete of the Olympic Games.
It's possible she's heading there.
I would hazard a guess too, despite our disappointment about not counting actual medals, that in a team of 65, the biggest we have taken in track and field to the Olympic Games in our history, that we probably had more personal seasons best and collectively, accumulatively, excellent performances overall. So I know we count the medals, but Jamaica as a team, because you know what? We have sent coaches to some of these countries. They've come here to compete. We're showing them our hands and they're beating us at it. So we just have to regroup.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like West Indies cricket. 75, 79.
I wouldn't
no.
I wouldn't
Hold on.
I wouldn't go that far.
I get what you're saying, but me know when you make that comparison there with West Indies cricket can't even come off of the corner. I know I'm here, so them come off of the corner about 20 years now.
All me say is that champs are for regroup, intercolor for regroup, and so on.
I agree with you.
I agree. Make sure everybody understands so we can lay down and play that.
I agree. Yeah. I'm sticking with you on this one because when we last had you here, you had people calling my phone based on some things that you said, right? But this is the purpose of our podcast and we have the platform and we'll speak on it. The men's 4x100 meters relay team this morning missed out on getting to the final. It was too early for me to cry because I did still have my time in my eye, but my heart was so broken, I took a while to go back to sleep. Then we heard Daniel Thomas Dodd failing to advance to the discus women, the shot put women's final as well, and then we heard her outcry. Where did we go wrong, you think, between both?
Not surprised at the 4x1. Kishane was the only outstanding performer. Oblique had an injury. Level would have been beat from the 200.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of numbers, but the transition is taking place. So I know that where the guard is changing. And you can see it with Hansel, Anderson Peters, all of them. Daniel now is a peculiar situation. Let me just declare my hands. There are several categories of accreditation for any Olympic team. And we have used our partners who have less. And we have used Cayman, Nigeria, and so on to get. We have a big team. We can accredit everybody.
Yeah.
So let's go there. But I think Daniel was a little emotional. She underperformed and she just blew her top. That said, we have to be more strategic from a planning standpoint. And so big team, diversity is hurting us. Similar to tourism, like our track and field, we are open up, so we have to plan. So let's look ahead.
Can't deal with it dibby like
Right.
the other time that when it was small in numbers.
You're going to have a lot of field events. They all have separate coaches. The numbers won't always add up, but we can facilitate. And it means that our partnerships will have to be more substantial. So get the coaches in at the college level, get the partnerships in with the other federations that are smaller, and let's work it out. Because again, as I said on the previous program, we cannot go into 2028 like this.
Yeah, actually, speaking of work it out, we do have 4 women who are hoping to work it out in the women's 4x1 tomorrow. The team of Alana Reed, Kemba Nelson, Shasha Lee Forbes, and Tia Clayton. Third in their heat, but safely into the final. Do we have any medal expectations for them?
For me, with the relays, listen, I am a Delulu to the core for my country, right? And I think that we're in a tough lane. I think we're drawn in lane 2 or lane 3 there for the final.
We're inside.
We're inside.
Yeah, so it's sharp corners for those.
We just need to do our job. We must do our job, which is taking care of the baton. While doing so safely, we not for run left the baton. So we have a task, but I think that we can squeeze in for at least a bronze, but I would not be surprised if we're off the podium.
It's gonna be a tough ask. It's 4 youngsters. And I mean, when I heard Kemba's interview, she said, listen, we just come out for run, we got the button, and they did one. In other words, they're safe feeling, they all agreed to the same thing, that they will feel safe going into the final. So we just have to deliver. There are some changes between 2 and 3 and the last one. And they clearly knew the mistakes or the basic errors they made. So them say we're going to give them the best shot.
And they did. They're into the final. Had they not gotten to the final similar to the men, then we would have had different issues. 2 19-year-olds on our team, Sasha Lee, 28, the most senior, Kemba at 24.
Yeah, Trishana, as a former 400-meter hurdler, your opinion on Rashawn Clark goes into the men's 400-meter hurdles final tomorrow.
Start me up.
A very tough field because he does have Alison Dos Santos, the Brazilian, the world record holder, and seems like he can't lose Karsten Warholm. But you do have Rai Benjamin and other names. But we have seen how he has executed his races, not just this year in general, but even in the heats and the semis. Is there any possibility that Rashawn can spring a surprise?
He can spring a surprise. He's fearless. He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he competes like a senior. Right? And I say this to say, last year at his first major championships, he got to that final and finished 4th. So I do believe that he just run your own race. And for me, it's not even about the podium, but I am hoping that he can at least get a personal best time. I think that Rashawn is primed for 2028. He's one of those I look to as he, gradually get into more seniority of competition, and he should be able to just give a good account of himself. And if that lands him on the podium, we're all happy. But for me, I'm looking more for a personal best effort.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So we have 2 more world championships before the next Olympics. Are our athletes overworked?
Are they overworked? I don't think they're overworked, but I think that when you look, It depends on the age, and that we're going to bring it back from I have the conversation here, because some have been competing at the highest level since 2019, despite the pandemic coming in 2020. But remember, a lot of them would have trained up to June because Sebco and team made the late decision in terms of there will be no Olympics because of the pandemic, and our athletes are they're not just there for make up numbers.
30
we got so
30
a gold medal and records we challenge.
30 odd events for a 20-odd-year-old. And I know. I'm not going to start up. But it's just a question because...
which is worth discussing, like I say, further on. And I agree with you. It should be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, finally, Jadon Hibbert goes in the men's triple jump final. After he completed the heats, he said, he was lucky to even make it. He hasn't said what he has gone through, but he did go 16.99 on a very bad day, according to him. Mm-hmm. We've had high expectations for him this season. Should we pencil him in?
I hope he can compete and do all series. He's only 19 years old. He's still growing. So I'll leave it there because that's all the time we have. Carol, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you had fun.
Of course.
And your views are always welcome here. Daniel, another good moment of co-hosting with me. That's all the time we have for Paris today. Make sure you stay tuned. It not done yet now, but just to get one. My mama tell us slow and steady. That is Team Jamaica. That's all the time we have for you. Share your views. We look forward to them. And make sure you watch the 4x4 heats early tomorrow morning.